Committee will come to order. Committee will come to order. Ms. Cammack had asked unanimous consent for the committee to watch the video. There was an objection. I'm going to yield now to Mr. Pallone for the purposes of his objection.
I looked at the video, but I insist on my objection because I have to be honest, I don't even understand what the person is saying. It's all, to me, it's just almost impossible for us to understand what he's saying and how it relates to what we're discussing here. Even the authentication is difficult, so I insist on the objection, Madam Chair.
Instead of a unanimous consent, the committee, I'm going to ask then that the committee vote as to whether or not to see the video. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay.
No.
The ayes have it.
Recorded vote, Madam Chair.
Yes, for a recorded vote. A recorded vote has been requested. The clerk will call the roll.
Burgess. Burgess votes aye. Latta votes aye. Guthrie votes aye. Griffith votes aye. Bilirakis votes aye. Johnson Bouchon votes aye. Hudson votes aye. Wahlberg votes aye. Carter votes aye. Duncan votes aye. Palmer votes aye. Dunn votes aye. Curtis votes aye. Lesko. Pence votes aye. Crenshaw votes aye. Joyce. Armstrong votes aye. Weber votes aye. Allen votes aye. Balderson votes aye. Fulcher votes aye. Pfluger votes aye. Harshbarger votes aye. Miller Meeks. Cammack votes aye. Obernolte votes aye. Pallone votes no. Eshu votes no. DeGette votes no. Schakowsky. Matsui votes no. Castor votes no. Sarbanes votes no. Tonko votes no. Clark. Cardenas votes no. Ruiz votes no. Peters. Dingle votes no. Veazey. Custer votes no. Kelly votes no. Barragan. Blount Rochester votes no. Soto votes no. Craig votes no. Schreier votes no. Trahan votes no. Fletcher votes no. Chair Rogers votes aye.
Then recorded.
Mr. Johnson is not recorded. Johnson votes aye.
The clerk will report the vote.
Chair Rogers, on that vote, there are 26 ayes and 18 noes.
The ayes have it. We will watch the video.
We're going to leave. We'll come back.
Okay.
So 80% or so of my practice is gender affirming surgery. So I do facial, chest surgery, and genital surgery. But the majority of my practice and sort of where my passion lies is really genital surgery cases. So I do a lot of vaginoplasty and a lot of phalloplasty. I would just say expanding in either direction. So yeah, a lot of adolescents presenting for surgical intervention, but also a lot of people that are like in their 70s sometimes coming in for genital surgery, and then everything in between. But the adolescents for sure present some unique challenges. Obviously, there's great evidence supporting pubertal suppression for a whole variety of benefits. But the one thing that is very new is genital surgery in someone that has underwent pubertal suppression. Not so much an issue in someone with assigned female at birth anatomy that undergoes a phalloplasty, because we're creating something with a free tissue transfer, a flap anyway, but a much bigger issue for an individual that's undergoing a penile inversion vaginoplasty. Because we use all of that tissue to basically create the vulva as well as line the internal vaginal canal. And as a specialty, those of us that do a fairly high volume of genital gender affirming surgery, we've maybe done a handful of pubertally suppressed adolescents as a field, and no one's published on it yet. OHSU we're just putting our first series together as we're kind of learning and figuring out what works. But it's really changing things because you don't have enough tissue to line the vaginal canal. So you either have to take a skin graft or take skin from elsewhere or use some artificial product. The way that we're dealing with it is by using a robot, and we're basically performing intra-abdominal components of the surgery. So we're using peritoneum, which is the inner lining of the abdomen, to line most of the vaginal canal. And by doing that, that allows us to use all of the remaining tissue externally to create a vulva and try to make also an aesthetic result.
So what we just witnessed was an interview last week from Dr. Blair Peters, who is a gender-affirming surgery expert at the University of Oregon's Health and Science Division. Earlier today, just a few minutes ago, our colleagues on the left said that we didn't know what we were talking about. So when presented with a video that details exactly what it means to conduct surgery on a minor for gender-affirming surgery, they left the room. They don't want the facts. And as you heard from the specialist who does these surgeries, they don't know what they don't know. They don't understand the long-term effects. There is not even published information, peer-reviewed information backing up the claims that our colleagues on the left have said. We are here today to fund children's hospitals, not to mutilate them with experimental surgeries that we do not have science and data that backs up the claims that the left has made today. So I stand with my colleagues in funding these children's hospitals, but I also am very disappointed in my colleagues on the left who opted to leave the room in protest and refuse to watch a video from an expert on their own side. With that, Madam Chairwoman, I thank you for allowing me to show this video, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Further discussion on the amendment?